today let's do a casual review of a new product that Brother Nathaniel sent me. If you watch my previous review of this centipede knife designed by Brother Nathaniel, you know I was a fan, but the tip of this knife broke off during my very harsh testing, almost unfair testing of the knife, even though it performed well across the board. So Brother Nathaniel was generous enough to send me this sample of a new version, improved centipede by Gulzar Ahmed. And as you can see, this one features satin finish instead of the blued finish on the blade, and it increased the concave geometry on the blade surface, has a more proficient edge bevel, and it has a more pronounced drop point shape profile on the blade to make the blade easier to control the point alignment when you do the thrusting motion. On top of that, they changed the full width exposed hand construction to a slimmer profile. As you can see here, it is definitely slender, a hidden tan going through the black micarta grip, similar to the previous one, features 9 notches or grooves, but instead of the 5 hollow brass pins, it was secured by a singular pin over here with some deco for decoration. It's the same size as before, 9 inches in blade length, but because of the increased hollow ground and the hidden tan construction, it is now only 60% of the weight. That's right, 10 ounces for this large knife here. Other than the more pronounced concave geometry, there's a distinct difference in the distal tapering, whereas the new version has a more linear distal tapering. It's slightly thicker at the base, and it's more progressive in the tapering of the thickness, as you can see here. Therefore, it is more agile, has better handling. You can also see the difference in the grip thickness. This is more slim, has a better grip. You can contrast the mosaic pin on the new version to the hollow brass pin on the old one. And instead of having this wood core scabbard, it features a simpler sheath made from leather. I'm a fan of the previous rigid scabbard, but this sheath is very lightweight, so it's more practical to carry around and on your belt. Together with this lightweight knife, it really weighs nothing in this sheath. Doesn't bother you at all, so it's a good option for an EDC knife. On top of this knife, as an already generous offering, he also sent a surprise gift, this new model of a Bowie knife or Bauernwehr hybrid. As you can see, this is almost a short sword. It features a Crossguard Detachable, actually. These brass pieces can be detached and attached individually, so you're free to keep or remove any combination of these. And in addition to the crossguard, the quillons, you see it also features 2 nagels or nail guard, found usually on German Grossmesser or Bauernwehrs. I'm a fan of this design of having 2-dimensional hand protection, and as you can see, the club design of having this nut at the end or the extremity of the guard to trap the blade. It can really pull off some complex maneuver with its wrist twisting motions. So you can do these blinding moves, so trapping the opponent's blade and grab them before you launch your counterattack, or a Zwerkau motion, which is quite utilitarian. Having more hand protection is always a bonus. And this is actually quite important, as this is a knife almost as big as the large Bowie knife Brother Nathaniel sent me previously. As you can see here, the reach is almost comparable. It's only a quarter-inch shorter than this one, although it does feel longer and more like a sword because of the slimmer profile and the shorter grip. You can see this Bowie knife has a much longer grip here. So with an elongated grip and a broad blade, it feels like a smaller knife, just an optical illusion. Whereas this one definitely feels like a proper Bauernwehr or a fighting Bowie knife. Not as imposing visually as this one, but still looks like a very balanced option for a cut and thrust blade. Good for self-defense. And the incredible thing about this design is, whereas it has almost the same reach, 90% of the overall size, it's only 70% of the weight. So it's taken almost a third of the weight from this one. As you can see here, the tip has a definitely pointier geometry for penetration. So whereas this knife focuses mostly on cutting authority, launching these very powerful cleaving strikes, this one is quite nimble in the point and having a better geometry for combating lightly armored opponents. Over this one, you see it's clearly broader on this knife near the tip, so there will be some penetration problem if you don't commit yourself. Obviously, an ice pick grip, put your skeletal structure behind it to launch a stab, will definitely penetrate. Probably not through tough material like gambeson or mail armor, whereas this one can definitely bust a ring, and near the tip is still relatively thick, thicker than this one. It's pretty thin, having a profile optimized for cutting. So a very balanced option. With this scabbard, as you can see here, also wood core, leather wrapped with chape and locket. It's still very lightweight. A little bit more than 600 grams, so 1 pound, 1 pound 4 ounces, the knife alone. A little bit more with the scabbard, really easy to carry around. And on the scabbard, there's a cutout for the nagel to go through, but as you can see on the locket, it also has Brother Nathaniel's design for the large sigil. The scabbard has a very simple and rugged look overall. There's a bit of contrast with this knife. As you can see, on top of the brass nagels and crossguard, it also has a nice grip shape with a contour to be ergonomic. Its grip is relatively short, but to compensate the lack of pommel, it has a beak or a hooked section at the end to increase the retention. So if you do these saber grips, it's unlikely to lose the grip. It's also secured by a singular brass pin with decal on it. So overall it has a rather refined look and feel to it. It's very comfortable to hold on to. The cross section of the grip is very scientific. Has the right amount of taper. As you can see here, the right amount of taper, it swells in the center and it slims down. So overall, a gorgeous design It's a very practical yet vicious looking knife, or even short sword. It has a blued surface finish. It also has a large sigil, the simplified version, etched onto the blade. Features a 1.5 inch long ricasso and a 12 inch long cutting edge. There's a false edge, 6 inches long, on the back of the blade. This clip point is not as prominent as on some other Bowie knives. Clearly, as you can see, it is definitely influenced by some Bowie knives, particularly the Riedel Bowie, designed by Cold Steel. I think this knife is much nicer, with added hand protection and more ergonomic grip design. The edge geometry is really refined. A singular bevel with a flat ground. There's no convex geometry as on the second version of the centipede knife, but a full flat ground is very nice, or a blade like this. There's no shoulder or anything. It does feature a secondary bevel with increased angle to increase the durability for the edge, but it's almost inevitable to have a different polish, different finish on the blade near the edge because of the bluing. And as you can see under the sun here, you see the difference in the surface finish because of the differentially hardening. This is made of 5160 high carbon spring steel, and it's edge hardened to 56 to 58 hardness on the Rockwell scale C. So it's rather hard, as if you watch my review for the previous version of the centipede knife, you see that one side effect is that this point is very hard, just as the edge. But if you stab it into something and it gets stuck in here, if you don't retrieve it vertically but wiggle it sideways, there's quite a lot of stress on the blade because it's still very short. It's not like a spring steel blade on an arming sword or long sword. You have a lot of room to wiggle it because of the spring temper. On this short blade, this hard, if you wiggle it sideways, the lateral stress will most likely break the tip because there's no way for it to apply that much material out of things like wood. So that's probably one drawback, something the user should keep in mind of. Otherwise, it's excellent design. The false edge has a very shallow bevel, and even though it's sharpened, it's unlikely it will do a lot of damage. But with these quick, responsive moves, you can definitely do some harassing cuts, do some damage. Even a superficial one. In a fight, it could be decisive, let's just say. As you can see, the other version of the Bowie knife has a more pronounced distal tapering. It's thicker at the base, 7.5 millimeters, and this one is only around 6 millimeters. And there's minimal distal tapering for the first half of the blade, and it has a convex increased amount of distal tapering on the upper portion of the blade. This one has a more pronounced distal tapering, which contributes to the very lively handling characteristics, even though this one has a much broader blade, as you can see here. Overall, I would say incredibly generous gift, and Brother Nathaniel has always been a designer whose work that I admire, and it's difficult for anyone to remain objective when someone sends free sample to you, or if they are your friend. But I try to remain humanly objective as possible, as there are people who send me multiple swords in the past. Some I liked and reviewed, others I just I cannot praise them on good conscience because some of the obvious drawback in the design or implementation. People sent me a very nice, very large Kriegsmesser to me in the past, along with some other swords. I was very eager to like their Kriegsmesser, but I just cannot go in front of a camera and lie to my audience. So I wrote an internal review to them, made some suggestions how to improve their sword. So rest assured, if I come on the record and praise a product, raving review, it's not because they are my friend or I just want them to send free samples to me. It's I'm really a fan, and I have been a fan even before Brother Nathaniel sent me these few samples. You can watch some of the reviews done by Kyle Smith of the Alien Tube channel, and also Marcus on Sword Buyer's Guide. They have done extensive test cutting, just as I did, and they have nothing but high praises for Brother Nathaniel's designs, his products. I've been encouraging Brother Nathaniel to have his own product line that he designed available, maybe on a website or on a Facebook page, so other people can contact him to order these. Anyway, let's look at the cutting and see how it performs. Midnight Dance Fighting Bowie Fork Shoulder Test Cutting. It's casually bumped to the stand that weighs about 30 to 40 pounds, and 13.5-inch long blade on this Bowie. Let's see what they can do. Right? As you can see, it has some gives. Alright. Cut deep. See how far it went. A big chunk of flesh would do. Alright, comes the binding, so now it's freestanding. So as you can see here, look at the depths of these chunks. About, I would say, 60% of strength using a fighting technique. Right, let's do some thrusting. And bring it about it. All the casual lunge thrust. About 2 inches. Nice big grip. That. About 3 inches. About 2.5 inches. Wow, this one's deep. Yeah, I'll say 3.5 inches side stab. 2 inches. So what happened was this stab went in, and the false edge, this false edge just opened up a huge wound. workout motion there, which is a long false edge. It's not razor sharp, and you can't really commit with a false edge cut. But the damage is still very significant. This is from the false edge, more or less chop. I will say about 1.5 inches. Less committed, barely cut the skin open. Yeah, you can see these small incisions by the false edge. This one is by the false edge, pretty deep. So it can do significant amount of damage, or it'll do some superficial damage. Maybe cause some surface bleeding. Look at this one. Yeah. Definitely threatening, but not reliably debilitating.